Sharing a vast coastline of the Mediterranean Sea in northern Africa is the continent's largest country, Algeria. With a wealth of Roman ruins and an unearthly desert landscape in the southern region, this country is slowly grabbing the attention of avid travelers. With the help of acquiring my visa with Fancy Yellow, I was off to explore this place for myself. My journey began in the capital of Algiers, and here's how it went. Good morning, guys, and welcome to my 130th country, Algeria. I'm super excited to explore this country, and I'm partnering with Fancy Yellow Algeria, who's gonna take me around the country for the next 9 days, showing me some of the really fascinating Roman ruins right along the Mediterranean seas, and then eventually we're gonna be heading down to the southern region of this massive country and checking out the Jeannette Desert, which is going to be just absolutely stunning. And Fancy Yellow has been incredibly helpful in helping me obtain my visa and also helping me plan a trip around some of the things that I really love, like seeing some old history, seeing some nature, seeing some culture. So they've been very helpful all along the way, and Algeria for many years has had a very tricky visa process. So to have them in my corner helping me figure out the whole visa on arrival situation has been absolutely incredible. And again, they're going to be showing me some of the best that this country has to offer. And again, Algeria is not a place I have known too much about. It's not a very tourist heavy location at the moment, but again, after doing the research and talking with Fancy Yellow about some of my itinerary, I'm very excited to explore this place. And I've always loved doing kind of off the beaten track travel and exploring places that I didn't really know much about. So very excited for what Algeria has in store. And this morning we are starting in Algiers, the capital city that's right along the Mediterranean. And then Fancy Yellow is going to be taking me on a city tour at 9 o'clock, and they're going to be showing me the Kasbah, which is kind of like the old town Medina with some of the shops in this little region here. They'll be showing me some of the monuments, some old houses, some mosques, an old church. So yeah, they're gonna be showing me a city tour the whole day, and I'm gonna be taking you guys along and showing you some of the really unique and fascinating things you can see in Algiers. They're gonna pick us up at 9, so I'll see you guys then. It is just a little bit after 9 here, and I've met up with my guide Riyadh here from Fancy Yellow, and he's going to be taking me on a little tour of Algiers this morning. And since my hotel is right by the Kasbah, we have just come right across to the Kasbah area, and this is the older part of Algiers, dating back to about the 10th century when this was settled. And we're going to see some of the old markets, some of the old architecture, maybe get into a couple old houses and palaces. So yeah, let's go for a little walk through the Kasbah here and check it out. One of the first things that we're seeing in the Kasbah here is the ruins of one of these traditional houses, and there's a lot of history to Algeria, but basically in the mid to late 50s there was the revolution here, and there was the people of the Kasbah versus kind of the European section of town there. And this is a historical house during the revolution because some of the authorities from the European section of town blew up one of these traditional houses and some of the neighbors' houses to try to attack and kill some of the freedom fighters. But we're gonna go around the corner here and check out, there's a little museum that'll tell you a little bit of the story of the revolution here in the Kasbah.
So these 4 people are actually hiding inside this house. We have the most famous one here in the picture, and this is Ali Lapointe. So for the French police, they decided to place bombs around the house, and they blew it up. And they killed, as we said, the 4 heroes.
That was a brief look into the Ali Lapointe museum right in the Kasbah here. And again, very interesting to learn a little bit about the revolution against the French here. and the history in that house. Anyways, we're back on the streets of the Kasbah, and we're gonna work our way up all of these winding stairs to the top of the Kasbah. We have just worked our way all the way up the stairs of the Kasbah, and there's just all of these little winding alleys, and it's just fascinating to see some of those old homes in there. And we've made it to the top, and there's a statue of the founder of Algeria, Bouzine, in about the 10th century, and there was this wall that the Ottomans built that completely surrounded the Kasbah at the time, and so you can see a little bit of the remnants of the wall. And then right here we can see the prison, and again we're learning a lot about the revolution from the 1950s here, but the French had a prison here, and this is where they would have a guillotine and they would kill some of the prisoners up here, and eventually Algeria is going to be turning that into a museum of the revolution in the next couple of years, so you can go in and see some of the prison cells. But yeah, from here we're going to look for a rooftop that Riyadh knows, that we get a nice view overlooking all of Algiers. So we have just come a couple blocks from that old French prison here back in the Kasbah, and we've come up to this little cafe, and you can get some tea, and you have this incredible view. You're looking right down on the Kasbah here, and you can see the Mediterranean Sea, you can see some of the ports, you can see the minaret of the Great Mosque way out there. Kind of a hazy day, but then you can see the Monument of the Martyrs up on the hill, which we're going to be checking out later, and from up here you can see some of the minarets of the mosques in the Kasbah, and it's just an incredible view looking out over Algiers here. So we're going to enjoy some tea and just taking some of these views. Just enjoyed some tea up there with some beautiful views, and now we've come back down to the streets of the Kasbah, and there were even some little tea shops right on the streets, and there were some women we met up at the tea shop who were down there dressing up in some of the traditional Kasbah clothing, where the women showed just their eyes, and they wanted me to take some photos of them there as well. So anyways, we're gonna keep working down the Kasbah here and check out an old palace. Riyadh showed me some of the cheap street food you can get. These little pizzas, there's no cheese or anything, just sauce and some hot peppers for 20 dinar, which is like 10 cents. So, gonna snack our way down. We have just come down the Kasbah a little bit here, and we're seeing one of the old palaces from the 1700s, which has been turned into a museum now of calligraphy, but we'll be able to see a little bit of the old architecture and interior styling of a palace here in the Kasbah. So let's head in and check it out. We have just entered the calligraphy museum here, but again, this was an old 17th century palace, and so you can just see all of this regal, ornate architecture. Down in the middle, there's a big kind of open courtyard, and then you have all of these traditional Ottoman-shaped doors and windows, and then you have some beautiful tiles, you have these marble columns, and there's 2 floors that you can explore. And again, it's been turned into a calligraphy museum, so they've all been turned into little galleries at this point, but some of them were different meeting rooms and bedrooms for the governor of the time. So yeah, very beautiful, ornate architecture in here. So we're gonna keep exploring the Kasbah now. We have just left that old palace here, and now we are on the edge of the Kasbah, right where the Kasbah turns into the European part of the town here. And right behind me, we have the Quechua Mosque, which has this beautiful Byzantine style architecture. You have some nice tiling on the front here. In 1962, on July 5th, when the revolution was completed and the Algerians won, the independence was actually written inside the mosque here. So has a very significant history, as well as just being a beautiful mosque here right on the edge of the Kasbah. So we can't go inside, but we can enjoy its beauty from the outside here in this kind of chaotic market square. And now we're gonna go find some lunch. We have just come to the edge of Algiers, along the port area a little bit, and we're looking for a traditional Algerian restaurant called Sapori, which will be like right under the road here. So we're gonna head in and try some traditional Algerian food. Just finished up our lunch there at Sapori. Really good local Algerian food. I got some breshta, which were these rice noodles, some chicken, some zucchini on it, and I got some fresh squeezed orange juice. And now we are going back out towards the European part of the Algiers center here and checking out a little bit of the French colonial architecture. We have just been walking through the European part of Algiers here, and we've made it to the center of Algiers. There's this big open park, and one of the most famous buildings is the Grand Post Office, built in 1910, and you have these beautiful arched doors there and some beautiful details on some of the windows and on the tops. It almost looks like an old palace, but it was just the old post office here. And then as we were walking some of these streets, it almost felt like we were in Europe. There were these little street side cafes and little gardens, and it was just a really beautiful, cute area to walk around. And you have all of these really elegant buildings that just completely surround us here, and you have these Parisian type balconies on some of the apartment buildings here. So anyways, we're gonna jump on the metro here, and we're gonna work our way towards the botanical gardens and the Martyrs Monument that we've seen on the hill overlooking Algiers. So yeah, let's go check out the metro. We have just taken the metro line about 5 stops, and the metro is super efficient, pretty cheap. It was just 50 dinar, which is like 33 cents, and we've made it to the Botanic Gardens here, and right when you exit the metro, we've just turned into the Botanic Gardens, but we also have the Martyrs Memorial up on the hill right above us, and we'll take a tramway up there eventually. But we're going to start by exploring the Botanic Gardens here, which the French built in the 1830s to try out different plants from all around the world, and some of these plants were then later transplanted to the Palace of Versailles. So anyways, yeah, let's walk around and check out some of the beautiful plants and gardens in this huge botanic garden in Algiers. Just walked around the Botanic Gardens here a little bit. There's these beautiful like archways from all of these trees. There's a bamboo archway, a couple other archways, and some ponds. And then we've come to the famous Tarzan tree, which is where the 1930 Tarzan Ape-Man movie was filmed in this tree, and you have all of these vines hanging from it. So this Botanic Garden is massive. He said there's a zoo in here as well, so there's a lot of places you could walk around in here, and it's a nice place if it were a hot summer day to just get some shade and enjoy some nature for a little bit. But again, right across from the Botanic Garden is the cable car that's going to take us up to the Martyrs Memorial. So yeah, let's go check that out. We have just come right across the street, and there's a little cable car for 20 dinar, which is like 10 cents, that'll take us up the hill to the Martyrs Memorial. So we have just taken that cable car up to the Martyrs Memorial, which is up on this hill here, which was built in 1982 on the 20th year anniversary of Algeria's independence. And there are three of these massive pillars, one for the people of Algeria, one for the army of Algeria, and one for the freedom fighters of Algeria, which all helped fight for the independence of Algeria in 1962. And then beneath and under the memorial here, there's an amazing museum. Unfortunately, you can't take any photos or video in there, so I can't quite show you, but it has this incredible history of Algeria as you go around the outside of the museum there, and you really get to learn a lot about the Algerians' struggle and fight for independence from the Ottomans and from the French. And so just really gives you a lot of insight into the history of Algeria here, and very sobering to see a lot of that. So yeah, and then again, you're up on this hill and you just have this incredible view looking back on the port of Algiers here, seeing some of the city, the Kasbah that we were exploring way over there. And yeah, just an incredible view from up here. So we are going to get in a car and we're going to drive to the main Christian church of Algiers here and check that out. So yeah, let's jump in the car. We have just driven across the city of Algiers here, and we have driven up another hillside to the Notre Dame d'Afrique, which is the main cathedral here in the city of Algiers, a country that has about a 1% Christian population. So you're mostly going to have mosques throughout the city, but up on this hill, there's the church here that was built in 1872. in the Byzantine style. So you can see there's this beautiful dome to it, and there's some nice tiling along the roof. And we're up on these cliffs, so you're just overlooking the Mediterranean here and a little bit of the city of Algiers. So yeah, let's head in and check out the cathedral. So we just stepped inside the Notre Dame d'Afrique, and it was just this beautiful painting at the front there, and then you had some nice stained glass, and then there was a statue right at the front of the Virgin Mary, and we couldn't take photos beyond the back of the church there, so I was just able to show you from the back there. But as you walked around, there were all of these names of people who had said prayers in this church, and their prayers had come true, and they would come back and buy a plaque attesting that their prayers had come true when they prayed to the Virgin Mary in this church. So from here, there's one last place we're gonna go, and it is to the Grand Mosque, and it is one of the largest mosques in Africa, the tallest minaret in the world. We've caught glimpses of it throughout the day, all the way across the bay here. So yeah, we're gonna jump back in the car, go for a drive, and end with sunset at the Grand Mosque. Have just entered the main courtyard here, and this place is just massive. It is said that there can be 120,000 worshipers in this courtyard and in the prayer hall. And right here, we're right in front of the main prayer hall, and you have these giant doors, and Riyadh said this is what he pictures the doors to heaven would be. You have these giant doors, some beautiful carvings and design on them, and this nice chandelier. And then all around the courtyard here, you have these giant pillars, and it just has this beautiful geometric shape. So yeah, absolutely stunning out here. I think we're going to be able to go inside the prayer hall and see that, but just loving the courtyard here and the architecture. We just ducked our heads into the main prayer hall at the Great Mosque here, and it was just one of the biggest rooms that I have ever been into. It is just a huge cavernous space. You have this beautiful blue textured carpet, and then beneath the dome you have the largest chandelier in the country here, and it's just this beautiful detailed golden chandelier, and then the ceiling has this beautiful geometric pattern to it. And then right as we were entering, the call to prayer was happening, so we had this beautiful sound just reverberating through the courtyard here and through the hall, and it was just a beautiful way to end our first day here in Algeria. And what an amazing city. I'm so excited to explore the rest of the country here, but I couldn't believe just how beautiful the city was. You just had that really fun old winding streets of the Kasbah there, and then up on top of the Kasbah getting a nice view overlooking this whole city right along the Mediterranean coast, and then going through the European quarter a little bit. It really felt like you were in a little tiny bit of Europe. going up to the Martyrs Memorial, just learning so much about the history of Algeria and the revolution, and then seeing the church and then the great mosque here has just been such a cool way to start my trip in Algeria, just learning about that history of the country here and their independence in 1962. So yeah, big thank you to Fancy Yellow Algeria for putting this whole trip together for me and setting me up with my guide Riyadh, and links for both of those places, the travel company and my guide today, will be in the description if you want to learn more about this place and book a tour with them, because just getting around was so helpful. We had a driver for part of it and then just a guide, and if you're here and you don't speak French or Arabic, it would be a really hard place to navigate on your own. So I definitely recommend reaching out to them for the visa help, and then yeah, just getting the most information you can out of your trip through Algeria here and through Algiers. So again, I have about 8 more days to explore this country. Very excited to see what we're going to see. Tomorrow we're going to do a day trip from Algiers out to Tipaza and Churchill, which will be some cool Roman ruins and a couple other little cities that we'll get to check out, then eventually Constantine and the Jeannette Desert. But yeah, what a great start. I'm super excited, super pumped. Can't wait to edit this video and this out for you guys to see. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hopefully this gives you some ideas and can inspire you guys to actually come and visit Algeria for yourself. I'll see you guys tomorrow when we do some of the Roman ruins.